murder,
and everything else.
My name is Joy.
And my name is Cheryl, and Joy and I are two very old friends who are going to talk about murder and everything else.
That's right. Happy Sunday. Happy Murder Sunday.
What's a Sunday without murder?
That's right. Just a reminder, this is not for kids.
It is not for kids. This is very, very true. An accurate statement has never, oh gosh, I just messed that up.
A more accurate statement has never been said.
Has never been stated.
That's right.
Statement has never been statement. And I might sound like Minnie Mouse.
No, you don't.
That's all I'm going to say. And
you
it's
don't,
not
but my voice is, I don't know about deeper. Do you think my voice is, maybe my voice is a little deeper than yours?
Maybe my voice is deeper than yours.
I'm going to talk like Elizabeth, what's her name?
Holmes,
who created the herpes detector.
That's so funny. So anyway, I just want to give some updates, guys. First of all, I have a correction to make. Thank you to Gabe, who is a valued listener and also a valued spouse, who let my spouse, not Cheryl's, let us know that the sewage system does not work the way I described it.
Thank God.
And we are not drinking poopy water. Thank you, Gabe, for your detailed poopy water investigation, otherwise called detritus, but he also told me it's pronounced detritus.
That is so funny because I just think you're so smart, Joy, and I really respect you, and I just took your word for it. And so after we recorded, I told Kevin, did you know that the water is blah blah blah? And he looked at me and he's like, really? He goes, I don't think that's the way it works. And then we just kind of dropped it. But it has kind of haunted me in the back of my mind ever since.
Well, here's the problem with ADHD. I have in my lifetime.
You make up shit?
Yeah. I have in my lifetime been on 3 sewage treatment plant tours. 1 as an adult and 2 as a participant, otherwise known as like an elementary school student or high school student. And I clearly blank out at a point where I no longer am interested in what the presenter is saying. And I blanked out apparently at all 3 tours. The one where I was in like 3rd grade, the one where I was in high school, and the one where I was an adult chaperone of my daughter's elementary school class. So I don't find poopy water plants interesting at any age. So if you have a child who is going to go tour a poopy water plant, I suggest you skip it, because you probably won't be interested either. And all you'll be doing is standing there going, God, this place smells like shit. And it literally does.
Exactly. I would love for people to write in. Period. But to just let us know what you thought
right
of Joy's take on what detritus.
Well, obviously nobody caught it except for Gabe, because he's the only person who informed me that that's not how poopy water gets treated. So
yes, so you see people, and I'm sure there's people out there going, no, I knew it. So you got to write in, please, and then we'll shout your name out.
Also, I have some giveaway updates. First of all, this last week we got 4 entries for our giveaway, which is the highest number of entries
we got an avalanche.
We've ever had.
We have an avalanche of
I know,
answers.
and because we downgraded all of our requirements and criteria for the giveaway, congratulations to Amber and Vinka for playing our trivia game and winning. Also, thanks to Kevin and Noreen, who also played. But remember, Noreen already got mugs, so there, and Kevin has one. So we got so many emails this week to our murder and everything else email inbox. We might have to hire an admin to handle all of the emails.
Well,
And also,
I love
oh,
that
go ahead.
people knew. I love that people, because I think people knew it off the top of their head. You know, it's something they remembered the answer to. So I'm
Right.
glad that my horrifying experience with the oatmeal was what everybody remembered, and they actually used it as a cautionary tale and threw out all their oatmeal. That was
Yep.
fantastic. Anyway, go ahead.
Also, to our listeners who come to us from Facebook, Instagram, or what used to be called Twitter links, it's now X. We see you even though you're not tracked like our Spotify followers are tracked. So we appreciate you listening to us. We understand you don't have Spotify accounts or you choose not to go through Spotify. And so we do appreciate you. We have kind of been fixated on how many subscribers we have on Spotify, but I am always reminded we have listeners that come to us from other areas. So we see you as well. We appreciate you guys listening to our podcast. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. That was so that was a high. I will tell you that when you told me that we had listeners that were listening, on other in other places other than Spotify. So that made me really happy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay, so can I give a shout out to someone?
Yeah, of course.
Shout out to Joyce, also known as Joycey to some, in Hawaii. She's my sister's very good long-time friend, longer than us, Joy. So they are very, very old friends. We're very old friends. They're very, very old friends. But Joyce is really not a friend of the family. She is family. She's been in our family for over 40 years. I don't know. Very, very long time. And she turned 80 last week.
Oh
So
my God,
congratulations.
she's 15
It's your
years
birthday.
younger than you, Cheryl.
Yes. Only 15. Look what she has
Ha-
to look forward to.
Happy birthday,
Happy birthday,
Joycey.
Joycey.
I just have to tell you guys that I met Cheryl's sister, Noreen, and her friend Joyce 5 years ago, and they treated me like family. So there you have it. They are just those family kind of like cool people that like just like envelop you in their like large um what do you call it, like wings of love. They don't have large arms, don't worry. I just mean
I have
they're
large arms.
large as in they envelop lots of people and make you feel like family. How do you
Well,
say, isn't family?
Ohana.
Ohana
Ohana
means
means family. What
family.
movie? What is that from?
It was from a book. There was a book we had when I
I thought
was
it
a
was a movie.
child. Oh, maybe it was.
There's a movie.
But it said Ohana means
Oh,
family, and it
Lilo and
was,
Stitch.
oh, I never saw that.
Sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, it was about a girl, and I can't remember what her name was, but it was a really cool name. And in the end, it said Ohana means family, and I
Mm-hmm.
never forgot that. Except I did forget it because I had to ask you just now what that meant. But anyway, so yeah, happy birthday again,
Yes,
Joyce!
happy
Woohoo!
birthday. Woohoo!
Joyce,
80.
you make 80 look good, man. If I
Yes,
am gonna be looking like Joyce when I am 80, I'll be happy to turn 80.
right.
But
I
right
know.
now, I'm just happy to be where I am, which is not 80. So I'm sure I'll get there. But I'm gonna take it 1 year at a time, Joyce. I'm
That's
gonna stay
right.
right
One
here.
year at a
Yeah.
time.
And also, I just have to say that 90% of the time when I tell people what my name is, they go, Joyce. And I always
Oh,
have to go, no, it's just Joy. And so, I get called Joyce a lot. I also get called Julie, Jill. And it's like, how did you get
really?
Julie and Jill out of
From
Joy?
Joy. So at Starbucks, you don't get your name right?
Well, yeah, because of the mobile app, but I will tell you this, that because I live in the South, I now no longer just say joy. I say joy. Like I kind of drawl it out because I feel like everybody has
Oh,
added extra syllables. So it's like joy, you
oh,
know?
wow, my,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
so you want to head into your highs and lows?
not really.
Come on now. You know you do. You know
Hey,
you
you
do.
know
Lay it
what?
on us. Lay it on us, sister. Let's hear.
You know what? For once, my high list is longer than my low. Isn't that wonderful? You're always bragging about how
Yay.
you have to pick from your high.
Girl, I had like 10 highs this week. I had to really filter through.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, so it's not a low that I have not visited before. So it's just a regurgitation of a past low because it's it just is. It's just following me around endlessly day and night, and that is my weight. I
It's
can't set it aside.
literally following you around from day to
Oh my
night.
gosh. So Jim Gaffigan, if anybody knows this comedian, has a joke that says, it's a very short one. He said, I was having a great day until I saw a picture of myself. And that is what happened when
Aw.
Kevin's brother and sister-in-law were in town, and someone took video of us dancing around in the kitchen, and I looked like a dancing whale in a sundress.
Oh, shut up.
So, um, yeah, that's a low though. And it's true. When I heard that joke, I cracked up because that can ruin anyone's day if you are like me and you have an issue. You know what I'm saying? Like you're
What,
feeling good.
the dancing or the being a whale part?
Being a
Because I
whale
can tell you right now that me dancing anywhere could ruin someone's day.
No, but it's true. You're like feeling good, and then you see a picture, and you're like, "Fuck!" It's just a reminder that I have to do something about it. Which, since I've moved to Arizona, I put on so much weight. I just got lazy, and honestly, did you ever hear Chandler Channing Tatum? I'm sure he didn't coin the phrase, but I saw him in an interview, and he was in between, Magic Mike tape filmings, and when he sat down, and whoever I forgot which talk show he was on, they were like, "How you doing?" He's like, "I'm great," because he was in between filming where they have to starve themselves and because they got to to have be half naked the whole time, and
Yeah.
he goes, I'm fappy right now. I'm fat and happy. He was just enjoying like not having to be so disciplined and regimented. So that's how I
Yeah.
was like the last 2 years. It was fun
Which
not.
which do you prefer? Do you prefer to like cut back what you're eating or do you prefer to do the exercise to manage your weight?
Oh, I have to do both because
Oh.
yeah,
But which if you had to just pick one, which one would you pick? Would you do more exercise or would you just eat less?
I want to say I would just do if I could eat the way I wanted to and just do exercise, and I have to lose weight. We're not talking about maintaining, okay? So but I would
Mm.
rather be able to eat whatever I want and exercise, which is what I did when I was younger. But you can't. It's not. It just changes.
Oh man, can't you know what they say? You can't fight City Hall. Ah.
Anyway, so
You know
that
what
was
burns calories?
what crying. I do a lot of crying, but I'm still.
Yeah, you know what burns calories, girl.
Oh, stop! I got to get my knee fixed first. Um,
Whoa, girl, TMI. Oh, wait. I have to just shout this out really quick in the middle of your highs and lows.
uh-huh,
But also, quick shout out to my friend Elisa in Cupertino.
uh-huh.
She said she was listening to last week's episode where we were talking about 80-year-olds having oral sex. She said, she was like, wow, you hit a new low, even for you. She's like, I laughed so hard. She goes, I had no idea that those podcasts out there where you guys were talking about 80-year-olds having oral sex. I got so much pleasure out of that text message, Lisa. I was like, you know what? This is that. I promise you this, Elisa. That is not the last episode where we talk about 80-year-olds having oral sex. Okay? Boom, mic drop.
She all she did was fan the fire. She just fanned the fire. You just encourage Joy to just hang on to your butts, people, because more 80-year-olds having oral sex
That's
type
right.
of material is yet to come. Anyway, so that was my low. And then
I'm sorry.
yeah, it really is a freaking bummer, but I have to do something about it. So my high is that I did lose 5 pounds in the last 3 months. And those you have to have like a kickoff that like you see like, okay, there's results to keep you going. You know what I mean? Because otherwise you're like, what the fuck am I doing this for?
No, you know what you could do to treat yourself? Go get a cheesecake. Raise the roof, raise the roof.
Right. That's the first thing you feel like. Even I heard Kelly Clarkson say this too. Because she was thin, or she was small when she was on American Idol.
She was also 12.
Right. But she also said, I'll never forget this because I take comfort in other people having weight problems. She said, she goes, I was not happy then. She goes, I was under a lot of stress and I was not happy. She goes, whenever.
Newsflash, no one's happy when they're 12. They're getting boobs. All of a sudden their period starts. No one's happy when they're 12.
Hey, when you're 12 and you're getting that first training bra, that is so exciting. It's so exciting. No, with the little flowers on it and stuff. No. But anyway, she did say, she goes, if you see me thinner, she goes, I'm not happy. She goes, when I'm happy, I'm fat. I'm heavier. She goes, I'm not happy when I'm thinner, I'm not happy. So anyway, and I have to say that I agree, but such is life. I don't want to, because also in one of my recent blood tests, I did not tell everybody this. My sister's going to be hearing it for the first time. I'm sure she's going to appreciate that she's hearing it on the podcast and not straight from me. But yeah, I was pre-diabetic, and I told you that, but it was on the low end. So my doctor was like, oh, just start cut up the carbs and stuff like that. And then my high from that is that you mentioned the sugar-free candy.
Yeah.
And not just any sugar, because some sugar-free stuff tastes like crap. But
most of it.
Yeah, but this was what Russell Stover's chocolates. Those have Joy. I can't tell you how much they saved my life, because I'm one of those people. After I eat something, I feel like I need a sweet. Yeah, I have. Yeah. It's just like, yeah. So my problem is not having 5 of them. It's just having 1, maybe 2. But I have.
And I just had to say, like, in reference to your comment about Noreen hearing this the first time, this podcast Noreen's probably just the only one listening anyway. So so it is like a personal message just to you, Noreen. Yeah. You heard it here first, and you're probably the only one who heard it. So.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, what's your high and low?
Okay. I just have to warn you. Okay. First of all, my high, I'm going to start with my high because my low is really low.
Oh.
So my high is that I got a new pair of contacts. I went to a new eye doctor. I had like all these fancy tests done. Apparently I have very healthy eyes. The pressure of my eyes is very healthy. I have no signs of problems with my eyes at all. They haven't worsened. They haven't gotten better, which I guess is not really a thing in your 50s.
No one's eyes are going to get better.
Right. But they gave me this thing called like autofocus contacts, and now I don't have to wear readers anymore. And I got to tell you, I'm super duper excited because now I can read the music when I'm playing the violin, and I don't need to like fuck around with multiple glasses. And I also don't need the readers at the grocery store or to read my text messages or anything. So I feel like I have new bionic eyes.
That's so cool. That's very cool.
Awesome. Thank you to the people in science, to the research assistants, to the researchers, to the animals that had like eye exams, to all the people who first wore these. and everybody involved in the process of creating these contact lenses, including the company that built them and then gouged the hell out of us, and the insurance company that's being charged a shit ton of money, and how it trickles down to the employee, because you all have provided me with an amazing pair of contact lenses, and I feel rejuvenated. Okay.
Yeah, that is amazing. It because not having to
It
carry
really is.
around readers, and
Mm-hmm.
like you and I talked about, you have one in the bathroom, you have one in the
Yep.
kitchen, you got one in the car, you
Yep.
got one in your everyday bag, you got one in your special
I
bag, you got one in
Yep.
your gym bag. I mean, it's just
And
like,
I will have to go back to readers at some point, but I will get to start again at the lowest, and remember, I have from point 5 to 2.5. I've got like multiple sets. So I've got every reader that you would ever need. So I'm well prepared for when that time comes. Stay tuned for when I talk about how at night I'm basically blind. But anyway, that's for another day. Um, my low is very sad and very upsetting, and you'll have to forgive me if I start crying because I feel very emotional about this, as do many parents and people and aunts and uncles and grandparents and siblings, et cetera, in this great country of ours. But on Monday of this last week, there was a shooting at my daughter's university. And it was super, super, super scary. I can't even imagine what it was like for her because she was on campus in class when it happened. So she had to go through the lockdown process. And I will say that fortunately for all of the students who go to the school, everyone was safe. All the students were safe, I mean. Unfortunately for a professor, he lost his life, and now his family has to deal with the fact that they lost their son, a husband, a father.
mm,
But for that 2 to 3 hours until the shooter was identified and arrested, etc., it was super scary and emotional and traumatizing, I imagine, for all of the students and teachers and employees that were on campus. The police officers were so brave. I saw video on what was formerly known as Twitter, of police going from building to building. And I thought about their families and how they put their lives on the line to put on these suits and go into buildings not knowing if they're going to be shot at, to not know if they're going to lose their life that day, and what
yeah,
how that's going to impact their families and their loved ones. There's so many people to be grateful for this, but there's also so much that's wrong, and I don't have to become political to or plant my flag on one side of the aisle or the other to just say that as a parent, these are not, and as a student and as a teacher, because I've been all three, there's no this is not what we should be doing or worrying about or dealing with when we send our children to school.
no,
And
no,
that's all I'm going to say about it. Um it doesn't take away that, like, this, if anything, just makes it worse cuz I have two children that go to school, not
right,
one. And it's not stopping this has not stopped with this, or the time it happened before, or the time it happened before that, or the many, 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 many times that it's happened since the first time a school shooting happened. And I don't know how many times it's going to happen before something's done, because it doesn't seem like uh people have, I don't know, motivation, interest, uh uh drive, in, like, investment in getting to the root of this problem and solving it for once and for all, to create safer schools and safer environments and safer shopping malls and movie theaters and airports, and I mean, you name it, for restaurants, and venues and concerts for our families and our children and our students and our teachers and all the people that could be caught in a crazy person or a mad person or an angry person or a disgruntled person or frustrated person's bullet. So that's my low. And it's gonna always be a low. It's like probably the lowest of the low. I mean, really.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
anyway.
it should be everyone's low, because you're absolutely right. Something needs to be done about this. You should not, kids of all ages should not have to be worried, and their parents and family and friends should not have to worry about them going to school where they're supposed to be learning. Yeah, it just shouldn't happen, or anywhere.
Right. But anyhow, on
Well, I'm very so happy that Chloe's fine,
yeah, on the
but I
tail
do feel
end, on the tail end of that horribly depressing low, Cheryl has prepared an even more depressing story about murder. So we're back with
that's
murder,
right.
guys.
Well, I figured better not to take them on a roller coaster. So since everybody's down already, I may as well just keep them down.
We might as well kick them while they're down.
Yeah, kick them while they're down. I'm sure that people have heard of this case. Have you heard of this case, Joy? The death of Rebecca Zahau, and I'm saying it's a death because whether it's a murder or suicide is up for much debate. But did you hear about this?
No, I never have.
Okay, because it was highly publicized at the time. And I know when I first heard about, like, it's never left my mind, because it's just one of those that when you pick it apart, you can see both sides. You can see that I mean, when I first heard about it, I was like, this is ridiculous. She was murdered. And then you look into it more and it's like, well, maybe it was a suicide. And then it's one of those cases where you will go back and forth. At least I did. So we're talking about Rebecca Zahau, and my sources were KUSI News in San Diego and Wikipedia. But this, I'm telling you, I've watched countless documentaries throughout the years. So
on just her murder?
Documentaries, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I've never even heard of her name.
That's incredible, because it was highly publicized because it's so strange.
Guys, I don't know if you guys realize this or not, but the fact that I am a co-host on a murder podcast is pretty amazing, because I'm also here to tell you I haven't heard of any of the other ones we've done either. So just a little like heads up on that.
Well, you're the and everything else side of the podcast.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm here to tell you about it.
I also don't know a lot about everything else either, apparently, when it comes to poopy water. But
well,
anyway,
we know that you do not know about how water recycling or whatever works. But so Rebecca Maui Zahau was born on March 15, 1979, and she was a Burmese American woman. She was found hanging at the Spreckles Mansion in Coronado, California on July 13, 2011. She was 32 years old at the time of her death. So she was married, but she and her husband were having issues. So you will see her name sometimes as Rebecca Nalepa. In 2008, she began dating Jonah.
Wait, how many times her name was Rebecca Nalepa?
Yeah, her middle name is Na Le, and then her last name is Nalepa. Listen, by the way, if I mess up any of these names, please correct me, because for some reason I get Max and Adam mixed up in this whole story, and so help me if I say the wrong name. But in 2008, Rebecca started dating Jonah Shacknai. He was the CEO he is a CEO of a pharmaceutical company. And like I said, she was still married to Neil Nalepa. Jonah was the ninth highest paid CEO in Arizona. He had two previous marriages. His first marriage to Kimberly James resulted in a divorce and a 3-year custody battle over the couple's two children. He had a son, Maxfield Aaron Shackline, known as Max, on June 7th, 2005, with his second wife, Dina Romano. So
so he didn't kill either of his first two wives.
Right. And he probably doesn't have anything to do with Rebecca's death.
Okay.
Interesting, huh? Yeah. This one will blow your minds. Expect your minds to be blown. Hold on to your butts. Hold on to your seats. Hold on to your wallets. So Rebecca, by this calculation, when she started dating Jonah, his son Max was 3. And by all accounts, Rebecca and Max, the son, got along great. Now, Dina, however, the ex-wife, Max's mother, Dina, resented Rebecca. Because she's the stepmom. And if you take a look at Rebecca, she was gorgeous. She was probably younger than Dina too. I'm just throwing that in there. That's like
they always are.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of this? Have you ever heard of a CEO of like
older person
who owns a house called something mansion, who shows up with like an 80-year-old and goes, "Check out my new ride"? Like, no, that never happens.
They're 95 and they look like me, then maybe. But yeah, I mean, I'm assuming she was younger than Dina, but whatever. She was also the stepmom, right? She's got this new girlfriend, and the girlfriend's hanging out with her son, which, you know what? That is really hard. I gotta say, to bring a boyfriend or a girlfriend in, depending on which side it is, to be with your children, that's tough. I don't have kids, but I can imagine that would be tough. So it'd be really hard for you to like the other woman in your child's life.
I think that's why there are so many crimes that they refer to as crimes of passion.
Yeah. No kidding. But yeah, so by all accounts, Rebecca and Max got along really well. So Jonah's brother, Adam, so Jonah is the boyfriend, right? Jonah's brother, Adam, was the only one at the mansion with Rebecca on the night of her death. He was the one who found her hanging. He had stayed at the mansion because 2 days earlier, his nephew, Jonah's son Max, had a serious fall over the banister of the second floor. So like I said, hold on to your butts, because there's a lot of information, a lot of accidents and deaths, and the timeline is like, wow. So 2 days before her death, Max falls over the banister of the second floor. And he was in critical condition. So Adam, being the uncle, came to be with his brother and nephew. Adam is the one that called 911. And he said when he found Rebecca hanging, he cut her down using a 3-legged table to stand on. Suspicious. He says he removed the gag and tried to perform CPR. But I just want to say that when she was found, let me keep going. Coronado police arrived on scene and then called the sheriff's office due to the suspicious nature of her death. The medical examiner arrived on scene 12 hours after the body was discovered. So you will be able to find, and they're blurred out. They should be, because what a violation of her privacy, but they didn't get there for 12 hours. So her body was on the ground under the balcony that she was hanging from for 12 hours. So helicopters flew over, news helicopters. Whoa. There's pictures all over the internet. Thankfully, like I said, they're pixelated. But nevertheless, she was out there for 12 hours.
Wow.
The original classification of her death was unknown, possible homicide. By September, the San Diego Sheriff's Department ruled Rebecca's death a suicide. They said no other DNA at the scene belonged to anyone but Rebecca. So I'm just going to go over some points. They found 13 specimens of DNA under her fingernails. 12 were identified as hers. The 13th could not be identified. On the floor of the bedroom adjacent to the balcony where Rebecca's body was hanging, there were 2 knives. Located between the two knives was a dryer sheet, commonly used to wipe fingerprints from any surface. The bed that Rebecca had supposedly tied the rope to, so they said the rope was found under the bedpost, one of the bedpost legs. Um, um, it only moved 7 inches. So they're saying that she tied herself up, and wait till you hear how she tied herself up. She tied herself up, hopped over, and then flipped herself over the edge of the balcony. And she's 100 pounds. And the bed only moved 7 inches. So that's kind of suspicious because nothing made it stop. There was nothing, it didn't like slide all the way to something and then it stopped. It just only moved 7 inches on the floor. Also found on the floor were garbage bag, paint brushes, and a tube of black paint. There were no prints on the tube, but Rebecca's thumbprint was on the open cap and her prints were on the paint brushes. So how do you get a thumbprint? How do you get a print on the cap without, you have to hold the tube in order to flip the cap up. I mean, try and do it as I'm just describing it. There's no way for you to open a cap of a tube without putting prints on the rest of the tube itself. There's no way. So that seems really suspicious. And this is a big one in this case. It has been debated forward and backward, up and down, all around. And it's so mysterious. There was a cryptic message found in black paint on the back of the door, known as, they called it the prep room where they used to cut the ropes. It said, "She saved him, can you save her?" It had no quotation marks. It said, "She saved him," and then under that, "Can you save her?" in capital block letters. She saved him, can you save her?
That's weird.
Isn't it? It's one of the things that you could look at both ways. Did she write it? Did somebody else write it? Rebecca's shower, located on the other side of this quote unquote prep room, which I think was next to the bedroom. It doesn't really matter, but so in her shower, investigators found a clump of her hair on the wall along with blood and more blood in the hallway. Authorities say Rebecca was menstruating but had no other lacerations on her body. Blood was also found encrusted on the end of the handle on one of the knives that was found on the bedroom floor, along with a blood transfer mark on her thigh. A book of witchcraft was found on the bed depicting pictures of naked women with their hands tied behind their back. And in the dust, the dirt on the balcony were only Rebecca's footprints. On the rope used to tie her were only Rebecca's fingerprints. The knots on Rebecca's feet and wrists were nautical in nature. Like, I wouldn't know how to tie this knot. But Adam, Jonah's brother, who was the only one there with her that night, was a tugboat deckhand and eventually became the pilot of the boat. I mean, if you aren't damned by circumstantial evidence, I mean, that's the time where you want to not have anything to do with anything on the sea. In 2018, Rebecca's family ended up having her body exhumed for re-examination. Based on the findings, the family filed a wrongful death civil lawsuit against Adam Shacknai. They hired Dr. Cyril Wecht, a forensic pathologist. Have you heard of him? He's very famous. He worked on cases like JFK, John Benet Ramsey, and another one I can't think of that was really famous.
I'm a huge fan. No, that's really, right. I've never heard of him.
You just said that 5 minutes ago. Well, he performed another examination and concluded that her death was the result of a homicide. He said she was manually strangled and then it was made to look like a suicide. Both the original medical examiner and Dr. Wecht found 4 blunt force injuries to her scalp. Dr. Wecht said these injuries are not consistent with the sheriff's reconstruction of the scene where Rebecca goes over the railing face first. Instead, they were caused by a short, blunt instrument. Also found was tape residue on her calves. During the civil trial, Jonah, her boyfriend, testified that Rebecca often used kinesiology tape. So it's a good excuse. So I don't know what to think. A witness who lived one house down from the mansion says she heard a woman scream, help me," that night that she died. And she says she told the sheriff's investigators what she heard, but they told her she was wrong. A handwriting expert was called to examine the handwriting on the door. She saved him. Can you save her? He made comparisons to Rebecca and Adam's handwriting and said it was more consistent with Adam's handwriting than Rebecca's. The jury ended up finding Adam responsible for Rebecca's death and awarded the family $5.2 million in damages. But before Adam could appeal, his insurance company and the Zahau family reached a settlement of $600,000, resulting in the civil case being dismissed with prejudice and vacating the original $5.2 million judgment. But before the dismissal, the judge did say on record there was enough evidence to find Adam responsible, and the jury's verdict still stands. And here's some other just details. While investigators tried to recreate investigators tried to recreate Rebecca tying the ropes around her wrist with her hands behind her back, but the knot was not in the same position as it was on Rebecca. So they showed them, there was some news station or whatever, they got someone that was about her height and weight. They got this rope and they tied it, it's like a figure 8. And they said she tied it in front of her, right? Because she has to see what she's doing. So she does a figure 8 around her wrists. I'm trying to do it at the same time. Then she holds onto it, slips one hand out, puts it behind her back, slips the other hand through, and then ties the knot. But it was brought up in the picture of Rebecca's wrist with the rope on it versus the woman who tried to recreate it, and the knot was on the wrong side. Rebecca's knot was on the top where she wouldn't have been able to reach it herself, and the person doing the test, she was able with her hands to tie the knot, but then the knot ended up at the bottom. So I think that swayed the jury as well. But the Zahau family vowed not to stop until Adam is behind bars. In August of 2019, the family offered a $100,000 reward to anyone that could offer a lead to what happened on the night of Rebecca's death. So I want to go over kind of the timeline because it is kind of confusing if you're not familiar with the case. So Max, the son, he's 6 years old at this point. His accident happens on July 11th. Rebecca dies on July 13th, and then Max dies on July 16th. So Rebecca dies before Max dies.
Right.
Because they're trying to say she killed herself because she was so distraught over Max's accident. But I just want to point out that her death/suicide happened before he dies. So that's why it's a little bit, you know what I mean? It's a little bit suspicious because she didn't know he was, unless she was so distraught just over the accident, because it was horrific, and I'm going to talk about it right now. So on July 11th, Rebecca, Max, and Rebecca's teenage sister, Zena. So Zena was 13 at the time, and she came to the Spreckles mansion to spend her birthday with Rebecca. So it was just Rebecca, Max, and Zena. They were home at the time of Max's accident, and Jonah, her boyfriend, Max's father, was at the gym. And apparently Jonah, there's conflicting things that Jonah Shacknai bought the Spreckles mansion, but in what I read, he used it as a summer estate. Or maybe he owned it and used it as a summer estate. Yeah, he could do both. He could own it and use it as a summer estate. Anyway, at some point during that day on the 11th, Max fell face first over the second floor banister, suffering serious injuries to his face and spinal cord, affecting his heart and breathing. So there's animation and there's pictures of animated drawings of theories that he went over the banister and hit the railing. So this is on the second floor, that he went over that banister, over that railing, and hit the banister on the stairwell coming down, and it kind of curved. And then there was a chandelier there, and some people, speculate that he tried to grab onto it because he ended up on the ground with the chandelier next to him. Rebecca said she was in the bathroom at the time when Max had his accident. She heard a crash, And like I said, she found him on the floor next to the chandelier, and her sister Zena called 911. Max was not breathing and unresponsive and was taken to Rady, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, Children's Hospital in San Diego. And then, like I said, he died on July 16 due to brain damage caused by oxygen deprivation resulting from his injuries. On July 26, investigators ruled Max's death as an accident, speculating that he somehow tripped. However, a trauma doctor who examined him prior to his death and autopsy stated to police that he did not believe the injuries from his fall were consistent with the cardiac arrest and brain swelling from the fall, suggesting that Max may have suffocated prior to his fall. A year after Max's death, his mother, Dina Romano, who's a clinical psychologist specializing in child and family relations, petitioned to reopen Max's case based on new forensic evidence. A forensic pathologist commissioned for the case said that Max was too small to fall over the railing and that his injuries were not consistent with the cardiac arrest and brain swelling due to his fall. The examination found that he may have been assaulted and suffocated before his fall. Dina didn't name a subject. Dina didn't name a suspect, and the police declined to reopen Max's case.
Okay, I just want to jump in right here.
Yeah.
And I want to remind everybody who's listening, because I have used this example in so many different instances. Remember the little 3-year-old boy who somehow ended up in Harambe's, the gorilla's habitat at the
Ugh.
zoo? And anyone who has ever had a toddler or a child under a certain age knows, one, they're like shapeshifters. All you do is turn away for a brief second. And I went through this myself. My child was like 18 months old. I turned around. She was an amazing walker. She walked when she was 10 months old. So by the time she was 18 months old, she could run marathons. Okay. She was gone. And we were at a packed place with people everywhere. And I swear to you, I almost had a heart attack. So children are very quick. It doesn't matter if they're toddlers or if they're preschool age or if they're school age. Secondly, when someone says that a child can't jump or fall over or whatever, I mean, I recently a child slipped off of the balcony of a cruise ship. I mean, children.
Oh my God! Into the water or into the deck below?
Yeah. Recently, an 8-year-old who was on vacation with his family fell into a volcano. So I'm just telling you, an 8-year-old. So when
and you said
say,
you didn't know about these stories.
When people say that children, like, first of all, and I'll just say, if you tell a child, don't touch this, it's hot, the first thing they do is touch it.
Right,
if you tell them, don't move, the first thing they do is they walk away. When kids are standing next to their parents in busy parking lots and the parents say, stand there, it's not that they're trying to disrespect or disobey their parent. I don't care how many of you weirdos out there think that beating your child works. The fact of the matter is that they're children. They have very short attention spans. It's not that they're not listening. It's that no child thinks at 3, I can't wait to get in that enclosure and play with this gorilla.
Right.
Of course not.
Yeah.
But so when people came for that mom, like they did, because every 12 to 16-year-old on the internet has an opinion.
Right.
And I'm saying that loosely, but you know who you are, trolls. The fact of the matter is that everybody I mean, that's just it. It wasn't okay, there are parents that are negligent. I get it. But as a parent, even I have been at times in my life negligent. You're tired, you're not always sleeping all night, you blah blah blah, whatever. So to say that he was too small to fall over the railing, a forensic pathologist, I mean, I'm sorry. What is the forensic pathologist a toddler? I'll tell a 6-year-old, I'll tell you who the best person to determine whether or not he was too small to fall over the railing was another 6-year-old.
Right. And of the same
So
height and whatnot. And so,
right. So I know I went on a little bit of a tear, but all those
no.
parents out there who are people who've worked with children of this age, you all know what a 6-year-old is capable of.
Well, and there's other reports. So in researching this, there's some conflicting things on the information that I could get. But overall, you can see the discrepancies and the suspicion. So there were theories that he was riding his scooter on the second floor, and that's how he went over the railing. But to your point, he could have just stopped and said, "I'm going to try climbing this."
Right.
You know what I mean?
And he may have tried climbing it multiple times.
And did
What
it
what
successfully?
I find more problematic is the weight of a 6-year-old hanging on a chandelier caused the chandelier to
Near to
fall.
break. Yeah.
So, for example, who hung that chandelier up? I mean,
Right?
it should have held a substantial amount of weight. I know how they're installed, and they're not just stuck in a hole with nothing to hold. The
Right.
chandelier weighs something, so it should have been able to also support not just the weight of the chandelier, but something, and then also, how did he hit or grab the chandelier? Where was it in relationship? You know what I mean? Like, I'd have
Mm-hmm.
to see the floor plan of this banister in relationship to the chandelier, in relationship to where the child was and where the chandelier fell.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
also, did they dust the chandelier for children's fingerprints?
I have that I do not know.
That would have
That
been
I do
very
not know.
important.
Well, yeah, all of that is very good commentary. And this is the reason that I like to get your opinion on things, because some people are saying he was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's so all over the place. So it was hard to do this research because they're saying that she killed herself, that Rebecca killed herself because Max was under her care, you know. Um, and then he has this accident. Um, and I guess if you're the mother, you are going to blame Rebecca, but how is she supposed to watch him every single second? To your point, right? He's 6.
Right.
It's very complicated. I will tell you that whenever I'm upstairs, whether it's the second floor or higher, and you can see over the banister to the floor, to the ground below, that always just stops my heart. And then my legs get a little weak because I'm like,
Yeah.
you could easily fall over this thing. Anyone could. So anyway, there's suspicion about that, whether it was an accident or a murder. Now we're going to move to Rebecca's death, which is 2 days after Max has his accident. So Max is in the hospital at this point. So on July 12th, the day after Max's accident, Rebecca dropped Zena off at the airport for her flight back to Missouri, and then she picked up Jonah's brother Adam, who had just arrived on a flight from Memphis, Tennessee. And he came, like I said, he came because of Max's accident. So I'm kind of going back and forth. Rebecca, Jonah, and Adam ate dinner with a friend that evening. And then Rebecca and Adam returned to the Spreckles mansion while Jonah kept a vigil at Max's side with Max's mother, Dina. Police initiated forensic and toxicology testing on Rebecca's body as part of an autopsy to determine the cause of death. Speculations of foul play began early on in the case. However, investigators were unable to find any other DNA at the scene besides Rebecca's. On September 2nd, the San Diego County Sheriff's Department formally announced their finding that Rebecca's death was a suicide. Now, with regard to the fingerprints, I was watching her sister Mary and Mary's husband and the attorney for the civil lawsuit on Dr. Phil, your favorite. Um,
Ew, I hate
and
that guy.
I know, and they made a point of that, fingerprints can be suspicious, but the absence of fingerprints can also be suspicious, right? Why is
Right.
everything so clean and only has Rebecca's fingerprints on things? It
I
seems very
will
odd.
I will tell you that just from the beginning preliminary stuff that you read about like the clump of hair and the bed moving 7 inches and all that kind of stuff when you were going through that, 2 or 3 things popped in my head. One was that um she there was obviously some other things at play here. Like
Hmm.
there had to have been another person either helping her or hurting her,
Right.
you know?
Involved. Another
Involved.
person
Right.
involved. Uh-huh. Yeah,
And then
exactly. And
also based on Max's death and how unlikely and suspicious those details and findings are, I will also say that whoever, and nobody will know because they probably didn't have surveillance camera in there. Obviously, they would know that her death is also surprising and suspicious because where there's smoke, there's fire, you
right.
know?
Exactly.
So the kid had something crazy happen to him. Trust me, she had something crazy happen to her.
Exactly. Exactly. This is why this case has just it's so baffling. Um, and then I already mentioned that Dr. Cyril Wecht found four areas of trauma to her head, but the medical examiner stated that because there was evidence that she went over the balcony in a non-vertical position, non-vertical, she may have struck her head on the balcony on the way down. Now, I don't know what evidence there is that she went down. Non-vertical is horizontal, right? Why couldn't they just say that? Anyway,
Mhm.
that she may have struck her head on the balcony on the way down. Werner Spitz, who is another famous forensic pathologist, because he was an expert witness who testified in the case of Casey Anthony, said it was a possibility that when the body first dropped, she doesn't necessarily jump to her death, so she would drop directly downward and she could easily hit against the side of the structure from which she is hanging. However, he noted that to draw stronger conclusions, he would have preferred to see what the body looked like before the wrist bindings were removed. But another forensic consultant, Dr. Maurice Godwin, expressed doubt, stating the chances of bumping into the railing going over the balcony and hitting your head 4 times is highly unlikely.
Mhm.
Family members expressed suspicions for why Zahau's hands and feet were bound. Okay, her her ankles were bound by this red rope. She had a long sleeve t-shirt wrapped around her neck a few times with the sleeves being tied in a knot in front of her face and then in her mouth. Okay. And she had her hands tied behind her back. And as I'm saying all of this, I'm actually doing the move gestures. So she would have to have done her either her ankles first or the t-shirt around her neck. She can't have her hands tied behind her back and put the noose on. Well, she could, I guess, move her head into the noose, but that doesn't really make sense, right? Your hands have to be free. So she'd have to do
Mhm.
the t-shirt. I think they said they found her with the t-shirt around over the noose. So she'd have to put the noose on first. And then either, no, she'd have to put the ankle bindings first, noose, t-shirt, stuff it in her mouth, and then tie her hands behind her back. So someone said, one of the investigators or attorneys was like, she would have to be a Cirque du Soleil contortionist to do all of this. Hop,
Well, and the
hop.
other thing is why would she
Oh,
gag
oh.
herself?
The other thing that I failed to mention, which I would have been so upset if we finished this recording and I brought it up. She was completely naked.
Did they check her to see if she had any sexual trauma?
So, um, They found blood on the end of one of the knives, the handle part. So
Hmm.
the family's attorney for the civil lawsuit, this is what their theory is. Rebecca had taken a shower and she was assaulted in there. They found, like I said earlier, they found blood in the shower, like one drop, but many more droplets outside in the hallway. So they think she was it started in the shower and then it she came out of the shower in the hallway and she's dripping menstrual blood because the thing is when you have your period you ain't gonna walk around the house without anything.
Right.
So that to me is very telling. She wouldn't just be walking around the house unless she doesn't have
Right.
time to do something about her period because she's
Right.
being attacked. So
Right.
there's more menstrual blood outside the shower on the ground. And then they think that she was tied up. And this was fascinating. I this today was the first time I heard of this. One of the knives, there were fingerprints found on the blade and not the handle. So the attorney demonstrated on Dr. Phil, he said their theory is that she was bound and gagged and for whatever he went away for a second or whatever, but she tried to cut the rope because the position of the thumbprint and the fingerprints were not it wasn't consistent with you holding it to cut vegetables or cut something. It was consistent with holding it behind your back because it was on the wrong side of where you would hold the blade, or you wouldn't hold the blade to cut anything, right? But she's holding the
Mm-hmm.
blade to try to cut the ropes. If you watch how the attorney demonstrates it, you can find it on YouTube with Dr. Phil and the Zahau family. It is completely consistent with her trying to cut the rope while she had the time. And then
Interesting.
their theory is that he came back and hit her on the head, or maybe he hit her on the head first to incapacitate her and then tie her up. There are other rumors. I've only seen it on, I heard it way back when this first came out, but and all the other things, it's like half and half. It's very, you know, inconsistent to some of the details of this case, but it might be because there's so much. And that's why when I was putting it together, I was having a hard time because I didn't want to miss anything, but there's so much. But there were rumors that so Adam was staying in the guest house, which was detached from the mansion. But anyway, there was Asian bondage porn found on his computer.
Oh,
So their
that's
theory,
huge.
yeah, so their theory is that he might have confronted her or was talking to her about what happened with Max. It escalated into a fight. She struggled. He ended up killing her, and then the sexual assault they think was with the handle of the knife, and her blood was found on the handle, and there
Oh,
was that blood smear on her thigh,
ew.
so like coming out. Um, so
Sorry.
oh no,
Ew. I'm grossed out now. I feel like I need to take a shower and
I'm
also a
so
nap.
sorry.
I love how when I said, "Do you think they're still doing it?" You sounded like you were gonna go, "Ew," and but meanwhile, this stuff is like I'm over here like with the same reaction, "Ew,"
Yeah,
and
I
you're just
know.
like, and then he tied her up in a big rat and he duct taped her head and then he shoved a handle in her butthole. I'm like, whoa, what's happening?
I'm so sorry.
It's just fascinating to me, um, the different reactions that we have to different
To
things.
different things. What makes us like foil in horror is very funny.
I need a period piece to calm me down.
But next week, I promise we are going to
Pride
be
and
talking about
Prejudice, Pride and Prejudice.
we're going to be talking about unicorns and fairies next
Mr.
week. I promise.
Mr. Darcy, come to me, Mr. Darcy.
Oh my God, come and take her away. Okay, and for what it's worth, a psychic was brought in. Um,
Oh, thank God. I love love when the psychics are brought in.
She put her hand on the post that the rope was tied to, and she says she immediately connected with Rebecca, and Rebecca told her she was murdered,
I
and
called it.
but also told her Max was murdered.
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all. And also, I mean, yeah, I'm not surprised that the
So
psychic
obviously you
said
give
that.
the psychic a lot of credibility.
Oh
I
yeah,
just threw that in
absolutely. And
because
also, when you described to me Max's injuries, that's not like, remember again, a 6-year-old is falling from second story to first story. At best, remember, children are like they bounce until a certain age. You know when girls No, it's true. You know when girls' bones fuse is when they start to when they start to menstruate. I remember a doctor specifically telling me that when teenage girls or middle school girls menstruate, their bones fuse and like harden, like, and then that's when girls generally within the first year or 2 years after they start to menstruate, they will stop having their growth spurt. So when you see girls who grow really, really, really fast when they're like 10, 11, 12, it's because their bodies are getting ready to stop growing because girls grow so much faster and sooner than boys do. Not faster,
Mhm,
but sooner.
mhm.
And but I remember, because you can't have children and not get through that, where they fall all the time and cut stuff and break stuff. And we have a kid that sliced her head open and that broke her arm and broke her leg. And, I mean, it was always, every time we turned around, something was busted. And
Right.
she was not um a super like I mean, yeah, she would ride the bike down the hill with no hands on the handlebars,
Mm.
but she wasn't like a thrill seeker, like trying to go out there and be like Evil Knievel. But I will say, I remember the doctor saying, don't worry, they bounce until they stop bouncing. And that means that,
They bounce back. Yeah, they bounce
they,
back good.
yeah. And also, like, it's kids can have concussions, kids can break bones, they can need stitches. But a lot of times, and that's why they focus on growth plates, because they want to make sure the growth plates are, match up so that when they start to grow that there's not problems there. But at the same time, they also understand that kids are very,
Resilient.
yeah, and yeah, we just, when your body is still in that stage where it's growing and growing and growing, it's making its own changes. So tripping and getting a scraped up leg and falling and breaking a bone, a lot of times those are like those heal very quickly.
Yeah.
So
Well,
falling from the second story to the first story in a house off a balcony, yeah, he could have had a concussion. He could have gone into a coma. He could have had some lacerations. But I mean, it's a 6-year-old, so it leads me to believe that there was something else that happened before that fall.
yeah. Well, so the only, and I don't want to be sued for slander. I'm just stating the facts, ma'am. The only people in the house at the time of Max's fall was Max, Rebecca, and her teenage sister Zena. So
Oh,
who knows what happened?
right.
Who
Well,
knows?
what about Xena? Have they talked to her?
That's where what I wanted to say was, what if something happened between Zena and Max while Rebecca was in the bathroom, or Rebecca was elsewhere? We don't know where Rebecca really was. She said she was in the bathroom. But we don't know what happened with Zena and Max. And I'm not saying it was anything nefarious. It could have been an accident. But
Right. They could have been wrestling,
yeah,
or
you
he
don't,
could have been riding his bike around or his scooter and fallen and hit him. You know what I mean? Like
there's so
maybe she
many,
freaked out and she was like, I don't know what happened. I don't know what,
and then
I mean,
Rebecca covers it up because that's her little sister. I and everyone, I am just saying because there's so many questions. Okay, but I got to talk about this guy Adam. You can listen to his 911 call. You can find anything on the internet. And when the operator picks up, he goes, "Yeah, I got a girl hung herself." That's what he
Whoa.
says.
Was he
Now,
drunk?
I don't know, but we all play, we're all armchair quarterbacks, right? In hindsight, we're like, wouldn't you say my brother's girlfriend hung herself? Also,
Yeah.
why would you say she hung herself? If you saw someone hanging from a balcony naked, bound the way she was, ankles, hands behind the back, t-shirt wrapped around her neck, I don't know if I'd say she hung herself. I might have to say someone killed. I don't know. Can you come? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he says, I got a first. So it's weird because he says, I got a girl hung herself. And at one point, Joy, I am not joking. You guys can listen to this. The operator goes, is she still alive? He goes, are you alive? He
Oh
yells
my
off,
God.
talk to where she's on the ground. What? I don't even understand that at all. But the murder, okay, so the murders, there's theories that, so Dina, the ex-wife, had a twin sister, Nina. And remember I said earlier,
Oh, Dina and Nina? Oh,
mhm.
that's crazy. I'm
So
sorry, guys. If you got twins, stop naming them Sharon and Karen and Dina and Nina. Like, none of the twins want that. All right?
so Nina had texted Rebecca earlier in the night wanting to talk to her about Max's accident. So there's theories out there that Dina and Nina conspired with Adam to kill her. My thing is,
Oh.
she was killed though before Max died. To me, it seems very, very fast. You know what I mean? I'm in the hospital with my son who is in a coma. Um, and in the middle of this, I'm going to conspire with my ex's brother to kill the girl in the house. It's very, I can see after the boy dies and she's grieving and she's mad. But while she's at her son's side, I can't see her thinking about anything but him. For me, I can't see her planning a murder off on the side. So I think more that it was Adam. It was just between Adam and Rebecca, whether it was sexual in nature, and because I don't know the Asian bondage porn, and she's Asian. She was Asian. But then on the flip side of that, if you murder someone and you want to make it look like a suicide, wouldn't it be easier ways to do it and more foolproof, and so it wasn't questioned? Or I mean, like, what do you think about that?
I don't know, girl. I will say this. I don't know what people are thinking, but when shit goes wrong and everything starts to steamroll, it's like pick up the phone and call 911. Okay? Like if you start to feel crazy inside, like, oh, I'm going to do something crazy, call 911 and say, I feel like I'm going to do something crazy. Don't do the crazy and then call 911. Okay? I mean,
you know what?
just
No, Joy, we need to make bumper stickers that say, don't
no,
do the
seriously.
crazy, and then call 911.
Seriously,
Call
as
911.
and I'm just saying, I know what I'm talking about, okay? I mean, like we got felons in the family. I'm just saying,
Oh.
don't bury the crazy. Don't pretend it didn't happen. Like call 911 and then say, and then guess what? They'll say, we have mental health counselors. If you dial this number, they can help you. And then you call them.
Okay,
Because
go ahead.
I just can't. I cannot even tell you when people think this is foolproof. I got a whole plan how I'm gonna hang this lady off the balcony and shove this rope in her head, tie her hands behind her back, and make it look like a suicide. It's like, no one thinks it. And then whatever you wrote on the wall, that's crazy too.
Okay, that before we go, because we have to start wrapping it up, I want to talk a little bit because this was a big deal in everyone's eyes. This cryptic note, she saved him. Can you save her? She's talking about it in a third person. So Dina's family's like, first of all, why would she refer to herself in the third person? Was she distraught? She's about to kill herself because she feels really guilty about the boy. she saved him. She didn't save him. That's the thing. So it's very weird, right? She did CPR. Oh, and the fact that Adam says he cut Rebecca down and did CPR on her. She was found with her hands behind her back. How do you do CPR on somebody that can't lie flat on their back?
Right. Also, maybe he was talking about she saved him being she saved her boyfriend, or maybe she saved him, she saved Adam. So it might not have been about Max. It could have been about Jonah. Could have been about Adam.
Why
it
Adam?
Also could have
Why
been
Adam?
It could have been she saved him, meaning the teenage sister saved the little boy. I mean, you don't know.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm just asking you, does it lend itself more to someone else writing it and killing her and trying to, and what is your theory on why they wrote it? Is this
because again, like
so
when the crazy it comes in your head, sometimes it comes out of your hands, like crime words, you know.
Okay, but just tell me if you think she wrote it, or do you think she was killed, or she killed herself?
I think she was killed.
Okay, and the person that killed her wrote this, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
Or they made her write it before they killed her.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's just it's one
very
of those,
convoluted.
Yes, very. And I want to point out that the Zahau family, when they sued, in that civil lawsuit, they sued for a penny, because her sister Mary, who I feel for whenever you see her in these interviews, they obviously loved each other. They're a very close family, and she's fighting for justice. As of October 22nd, October 2022, that was the last thing I could find. So fall of last year, they're still petitioning to have Rebecca's death changed from suicide to homicide or undetermined. I mean, that's her. It does not sit well with her. It wouldn't, if with me too. But I just want to bring out that they sued for a penny because she wanted to make it very clear to everyone that it was not about money, and they left it up to the jury to decide, and they were the ones that awarded them the $5.2 million. So I just wanted to say that because I really feel for Rebecca's family. So, and I do feel for the Shacknies for Max's death. But yeah, isn't this it's just, I don't know, there's so much.
If anybody has any insight or any interesting commentary or anything to add to this, or heard something that we omitted or didn't include, please send us an email or drop us something on Instagram, or we would love to hear what you guys think of this, because I will say that to date, this is the case with like more question marks than I think we've ever had before.
Yep.
Anyway,
for sure.
Cheryl, even though this has not been solved, this crime was not solved, at least, to where we know exactly what happened. You know what else is a crime?
What's that, Joy?
That we are out of time.
Oh, man. Too bad. Well, thanks for listening, everyone, and don't complicate your day. All creativity, commentary, and opinions in this podcast belong to Cheryl and Joy. Music composed and mixed by Gabe McKeon. Logo and merch created and managed by Kevin Callan. Podcast editing and advertising by Joy McKeon. Legal representation provided by John Bojezek. Please like, subscribe, follow, and listen. You can listen to us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, you can find us on Instagram and YouTube, and you can email us at murderandeverythingelse@gmail.com.
Bye, fishes.